I plundered them. When they send, he even used the word, I plundered them, receiving money from them, because that was given with pure motives. And Paul didn't have anything against that, because he said, a man that is preaching the gospel should live by the gospel. But it's the motivation of the heart that is the key. And Balaam had covetousness in his heart. He did not long for righteousness as his number one goal in life. He was double-minded. He walked on two ways, as it says in the book of Proverbs. And if you do, you will fall on one of them. So because he was not strict to only do what was right, not just speak what was right, but also to obey God's commandments and not set a trap for the children of Israel to entice them into sin, because he was willing to compromise with that in order to have monetary gain. He's a primary example that we have in the Bible of a false prophet. So the prophecies of Balaam, I don't have time now to look at them very much, more than to say that, as I said before, one of the most powerful prophecies about the Messiah was given by this false prophet Balaam. It says here later on in chapter 24, when he's prophesying about the Messiah, from verse 17, I see him, that is the Messiah, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. It shall crush the forehead of Moab and break down all the sons of Shet. The Moabites were the ones who had asked him to curse the people of Israel. But Balaam, he was so careful with his prophecies that he was even willing to pronounce this harsh judgment upon Moab. So there was nothing wrong with his powerful prophecies, but his life was not in line with righteousness. That was the problem. So Israel fell into the trap, and we are going to study more about that next week in the Torah portion about Phinehas, and we will see there how serious God looks at this issue of sexual immorality. It is something that we must stay away from in these end times. That's all we have time for in this week's commentary. If you want to have the full commentary, which I truly recommend, and that you also read the text in the Bible, but if you want the full commentary, you can go to our website, thewatchman.org, and download them there. God bless you. Shalom from Jerusalem.
From small town America to the big city, from sea to shining sea, we are united by our love for this flag and our love for the people and the land of Israel. We are Israel TV Network.
Anya's family managed to escape the Nazi massacre at Babi Yar in Kiev, Ukraine. They fled, yet the Nazis found her relatives, made them dig a pit, and then shot them. Anya's mother had given her 8-year-old sister a piece of paper with a non-Jewish name on it saying, "This is your name now, forget your old name." That name saved the girls' lives. Now, however, because of that non-Jewish name, it is very hard to prove the family's Jewish identity. This is where Ezra International shines. Christians come alongside Holocaust survivors to help them with this legal process and advocate for them. A gift of $30 a month for a year can rescue a Holocaust survivor like Anya, restoring them to the land of their promise. Time is short. Go to EzraInternational.org and send your gift of hope now.
From Texas to Israel and everywhere in between, we bridge the gap around the world and connect them all to the land where our faith was first born. We are
Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East. Jerusalem, the most hotly contested real estate in the world. Judea and Samaria, condemned by the world as the West Bank. You'll not see it in the media. Journalists try to hide it. Real stories about real people, fathers, mothers, children, families. These are the people of the heartland of Israel. Your journey with them continues with the Joshua and Caleb Report. Stories from the heartland of Israel.
Ms. Danielle Wise, I am absolutely honored to be privileged to interview you here in Kedumim. This community, I would say, Josh, would you agree with me, is one of the most beautiful communities in all of Judea and Samaria as far as the beautiful flowers and the trees. And from the research that I've done, I've found out your fingerprints are on a lot of those since you served as the mayor in 1996 and then was reelected in 2001. But the truth is right now, from talking to you, the time that we have, you have some really amazing stories from the beginning days. And so let's go back to the very, very, very beginning, because truly you are a pioneer, and that's what we have. And so I want to hear from you the founding of the settlement or the reclaiming the land movement.
If I want to connect my pioneering days on this hill, and my meeting you now on this hill, facing Mount Eival, Mount of Joshua with the 12 tribes standing here, and here we became a nation. Actually, the first time the Jewish people became a nation, really, is here, and we are standing at this point. So if I want to connect this moment and the first moments when I, considering myself a pioneer, wanting to be a pioneer, dreaming of being a pioneer, I want to connect these moments, my beginning here and my standing with you. Actually, well, I look at the sky and I think of the moment when we knew of the opening of the miraculous Six-Day War. I know you allow me to use the word miracle.
Oh, absolutely.
It was in 6 days, and I want to tell you, I was a child. I mean, not a little one. I mean, childlike when I compare it with today. But we're thinking as a child. And then before the war, I thought that maybe the small state of Israel might be, God forbid, annihilated because of the threats of our enemies from all around. And then in 6 days, there was such a victory. And I want you to know that at that point, I made a decision. I want to be a pioneer who will play with the present that God gave me.
Wow.
So I wanted to be a pioneer, but my steps were slow. I confess, it was slow. But then, and I do feel like a person at the time, like a young person who God takes by hand and goes with me hand by hand and tells me, look here, I know, God says to me, that you appreciate the present that you got here, but you don't do enough. And it was the terrible shake of the Yom Kippur War, when we were taken by surprise on the holiest day of the year, when we were fasting all dressed in white, and then I hear this siren and I knew another war broke out. And then I took that decision. I made up my mind. I leave my home in Tel Aviv and I go to these mountains.
Wow.
Physically. And the best proof for it, that it was a pioneering act, was that my husband said, no, you're not going to do it. We have our beautiful home in Tel Aviv. We had at that time our daughters, our jobs, our positions, our community. But I said, no, I take the backpack and put it on my back, and literally, physically, I leave my home and I go to the mountains, and I'm not going to return to Tel Aviv. I know, you look at me and you smile because you think it's a good story, but it's not a story, it's the story of my life.
Wow.
People
People thought you were probably crazy at this point, right?
I see that you have some prophetic vision, because the next picture I want to draw before you was my friends from Tel Aviv standing around me in my living room in my beautiful villa in Tel Aviv, and standing and literally weeping. It's not a legend. It's a story, it's a chapter from the story of my life, because they thought that their good friend, Daniela, who was had a nice home, a nice position, a nice family, nice community to live with, going to the mountains. And I think that there cannot be a better picture to illustrate how desolate everything around was. There were small Arab villages who looked like stories from the biblical times. No roads, no infrastructure, no electricity, no running water. Yes, running water from the sky in the winter time. And there I go. So I said to my friends, look here, I believe in what I do, and I'm going to do it. So
you convinced your husband, right?
I didn't convince him, my husband, but I did the act. I actually took the children, and he followed. This is exactly the situation. I didn't leave any choice before him. So step by step, he accepted it. My husband was also very much involved in the Gush Emunim movement, which was the driving force behind all this settlement activity. At a later stage, I was a general secretary of the Gush Emunim movement. Later, at a later stage, I was the mayor here, as he mentioned, and I took care of many positions, but this is not the point. What I'm very much proud about is that I wanted to be a pioneer in the land of Israel, and I consider myself a pioneer in Eretz Israel.
I'm just in awe of the beginning of the movement and how everyone came together, and like you said, that you just painted such a beautiful picture of everybody coming together, and then even we talked about it, the faith of it. Like it's not a political movement of some sort, although that has its aspects. There's a lot of faith that went into you just dropping everything you had and moving your family to these hills. And I want to know where that faith came from. I want to know the reason behind why you did what you did.
You asked about my the origins of this enthusiasm.
Yeah.
One could say maybe I am like people go to the Himalaya and go climbing some very high mountains in South America or in Tibet. It wasn't. I'm not looking for adventures, and I don't like picnics. Although most of my life since then is one big picnic. I like to sit at an elegant table, but I got this deep faith, when we say emunah, this religious deep understanding from my home, from the youth movement, Bnei Akiva, from the friends, from the synagogue. And at home, at my home, my parents, they came to the land of Israel as pioneers, and their parents came as pioneers. And we knew that to speak Hebrew, to see the mountains of Israel changing from a desert and from bare hills into a Garden of Eden is the word of God, it's the hand of God. And my parents always said to me, look, we are part of a miracle. We live the Bible. We live in biblical times. We always thought in terms of we are another chapter of the Bible.
Wow.
So I got this love of the land and this enthusiasm and this love of God that gave us the opportunity to redeem the land. So what I do out of a will to thank God for what He gave us.
I want to hear stories from the beginning of the people returning to the land, and you being like right in the middle of that. Obviously, you know, even in the beginning over here, right beside Shechem. What a beautiful start. But I want to hear just how that got off the ground. You said it was kind of a slow start, but things eventually did grab hold, and I want to hear some of those.
It's a story that begins with a hard feeling. Hard is, I felt something in my heart and something here. I wanted to climb on a new hill, not far from where we live here. We wanted to expand, because we didn't want to be limited just to a small ghetto and on one small mountain in Shomron. We wanted to live in the entire area, in the entire territory. So we took, I was already in charge of the community. It wasn't yet a regional council or a local council, but I was in charge of the community. So I hired a bulldozer. I sat on the bulldozer with the driver, and I said, there you go to that mountain over there. That is a hill mountain. And I was debating with myself, but then I said to the bulldozer, go on, the driver, go on. We have to break the rocks here and to get to the hilltop. And then somehow it was again a rainy day, and somehow the bulldozer slid, and there were children behind, and it was a terrible, terrible situation. And I said to myself, oh, could I get some sign from God that I do the right thing? Because there's so many complications. Here the police came, and here the army came, and then all the little children that got excited over the fact that there was so much agitation. Was I doing the right thing? Was I doing the right thing? Then, like a story from the Bible, really, there came a young man from one of the neighborhoods of Kdumim, saying to him with a book. It was from the Talmud, one of the holy books of our elders, Talmud. And he says to me, look here, you see, you know what date it is today? It's Yudaled Adar, the month of Adar, the middle of Adar, right? Look at the calendar. This is it. See you know what they do? It says here, they do on Adar. This is the time when they improve and take care of the roads, because it's really? After the time of the of the heavy rains, and then in order to enable people to go with the animals, with the carts, they have to improve. You see, wow. I didn't know about it. I wasn't aware of the day and the date and the meaning. At that second, the second, I felt everything melts in my body. And I said, okay, this is clearly a sign from God that I did the right thing. I was involved with the building of more than 150 communities, more than 150 communities. Even in the last few years, I was involved with some new outposts. Some of them were destroyed, 10 of them survived. Wow. I remember climbing the mountain of Bracha. All my stories are with rains. This is the connection between God and the ground and the human beings.
Absolutely.
There was rain, but there was hail, barad, bai. Yeah. But like this, wow. Like this. And I was holding one of my babies at the time, and I was climbing with many other people of Gush Emunim. We were climbing the mountain of Bracha over there, and there was a peace now a demonstration against the settlement of Bracha. So we were climbing the mountain together, the people who were for it and the people who were against it, because the hail united us. And then the community grew, and the interesting thing, I took my baby there, and then when she did like this, then the hail were on her face. So I said like this, and then, believe me, it's now when I see the clouds here, all of a sudden it opened. We saw blue, and there was a pigeon, exactly in the middle. And I'm not inventing stories, because my life is interesting enough. I don't have to invent. I don't have to add to it, and I don't have to invent anything. Wow. It was all there. And now you know the community of Bracha.
Beautiful.
And I remember that when there was nothing, and what an effort we made in its hard times to take some families from here, to take some families from Ktumim, and to bring them there. We decided to go all over the country on parlor meetings and decide to bring people to the mountains of Bracha. And I went to Haifa, and I was driving. I came to this parlor meeting, and then I knock on the door after a 3-hour ride, and the lady says to me, what, today? I didn't know. But finally one family came to Bracha. Oh, wow. So now you understand why I went there. So we can continue on and on. And if you want more stories, I will.
This is amazing. Pioneer, I can't think of a more descriptive word for all that you've done. Just the beginnings of these communities, and I mean, Bracha, Kidumim, these communities are beautiful, like flourishing communities. And for you to be at the beginning of that in those days, and to tell stories like you're telling of just the miracle, like you said earlier, it's a miracle. Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you something from yesterday. Yesterday, I was in En-Gedi. En-Gedi is a settlement near Yam HaMelach, near the Dead Sea. So there I met an old person, much older than me, and he said to me that he was one of the children of Yitzhak Tabenkin. What is the children of Yitzhak Tabenkin? He was one of 40 young people who Yitzhak Tabenkin, one of the heads of the Labor Party of the first years of the State of Israel, and he educated them to be pioneers. And I met him yesterday. And sometimes I want you to know, with all the big stories that I tell, people think that I'm crazy because I dedicate my life to the young generation. Even these days, with the new movement that we founded, Nachala, my number one goal is to see that my own children, my own grandchildren, and the young generation, they continue what we did. Because what we did, it's not a job. It's not it's not a profession. It's not a business. It's a route for life that we have to see to it that generation after generation continues. So when this elderly person says to me that he is one of the 40 kids that Yitzhak Tabenkin, the big Yitzhak Tabenkin, dedicated his life to, in addition to other things. So I asked him, tell me, what did you do in order to become a pioneer. What did he do, this famous figure, in order to make you a pioneer? So he said, he spoke to us about pioneering. This is all it. So when I speak so much to the young ones and I tell them stories of the past, sometimes we say, this is all, everything that I do. I also go with them on the mountains, but we speak a lot and we discuss ideological matters. So yes, he spoke to them and I speak to the young ones, and I try to continue to walk, to go in the footsteps of our forefathers. Okay?
Wow. Okay, one last question to wrap this up. Okay, one last question. In hearing you speak, there's nothing but the future in every word you